How do you balance mum, wife, and business life? At what point did you start to monetize your social media? Where did the name Elsa in Elsa's Wholesome Life come from? Do you plan to expand the Wholesome Store into a physical store on the Gold Coast? How do you know how much to charge for Instagram and YouTube sponsorships? Oh, hi. Hello. Hello, we have a special guest today. It's Cody. Cody! Come here. Come here. Come on. Oh, Odie. We have a very important guest on today's video. Odie, who is going to answer some of your pressing questions. Can you describe being an influencer and what it entails, Odie? What does it entail? Hello, welcome back to my channel. This week's video, I'm going to do a Q&A. I'm sitting in a completely different space to what you're probably used to. We're doing a Q&A this week on some work-related questions. Okay. So it's kind of like a work, social media, yeah, kind of all things work really. That's honestly the topic of this Q&A. Odie, don't leave. Come on. Sit. We've only just begun. So I did a question box on my Instagram stories about a week ago, and we have compiled the top questions that you guys are wanting to know. So first question, where did the name Elsa in Elsa's Wholesome Life come from? And that is a good question. So Elsa is a nickname. My actual name is Ellie, and Elsa was just a nickname that one of my girlfriends gave me in school. And so when I created this Instagram account called Elsa's Wholesome Life, I literally didn't plan for it to be a career brand name, anything other than just a simple little hobby outside of my university studies. It just happened to be the name that I chose because it was a nickname, and then it just happened to become my business. And yeah, I just never found the right time to change it back to my actual name Ellie, but I kind of like it because I think having Elsa as my business brand name kind of separates separates work from life a little bit. Did you ever work as a nutritionist / dietitian? No, not really, not as you would say a traditional dietitian works. I finished university in 2016, and during my last year of studies I was writing my first cookbook titled Elsa's Wholesome Life. And so basically I graduated at the end of that year, and my book was coming out the following year, and I left Australia to go traveling and had lots of work lined up with social media. So I kind of thought I'd go traveling for a couple of years and then see how everything plays out with my online businesses. And yeah, so to this day I haven't worked in a traditional sense of working in a hospital or working in a private practice, but I still see what I do as a form of dietetics outside the typical scope. I mean, I guess I am providing people who follow me or people who buy my books nutrition advice or inspiration in that form. So I'm using my knowledge to put out my content, and then that content's helping to inspire other people to eat more wholesome and learn about nutrition. So in that sense, I would say I do still practice as a dietitian, just in an unusual way. How do you balance mum, wife, and business life? Well, at the moment, all these things are kind of intertwined because I guess my business, a lot of it is sharing my life, and that is being a wife and a mum. It's something that I'm always working on. So in terms of work and being a wife, that is kind of hard because Alex and I work together. We both run the Wholesome Store together, and previously to that he was helping me a lot with my Elsa's Wholesome Life side of the business. So it was in some ways hard to balance being a wife and work because a lot of the time, we were spending so much time together. But now I feel like we've gotten to this place where we know that we need to spend quality time together that is not work. So I don't know, even if that's just a family day at the beach or going out for dinner or a date night or hanging out with friends, then that's separating work from personal life. And I think now that we have that balance, it's really, really helpful. Balancing being a mum with work is also very hard because he's still he's only 14 months, so we don't have him in care. He's with Alex's mum 1 day a week. So that is kind of like our work day when we go to work and just like basically plan the rest of the week. I'm also writing a cookbook at the moment, so a lot of my time at home is working on my cookbook. So yes, it's hard to balance that, but I'm fortunate enough that Alex and I are both home with Bowie, so we can both kind of like divvy up time with him so that we're still having one-on-one time with him. We also love to do things together with him. So that's like going to the beach, or if we want to go to the park, go for a walk, or just like go do something fun with him. We always love doing those things together. And I guess we are in such a fortunate position that we can do that, because I know a lot of other couple dynamics is that someone is at work Monday to Friday full time, and then someone else is primarily at home as the sole carer for the child from Monday to Friday. So we're very lucky in that sense. Over the last year, I have accepted that I need to hand over a lot of the roles in my businesses that I possibly don't have enough time for. And so we've hired some extra team members, and that honestly has just helped me to have a much better work-life balance. And yeah, I just think it helps to keep our businesses rolling while also having enough time to spend with Bowie and enough time to spend as a couple. Next question is, how many hours a week do you work? I honestly have not counted this. I don't know, maybe I could take a count one week, but every week is slightly different depending on what's on with different businesses, so it really fluctuates. I'd say overall I probably work part-time and Alex probably works part-time, so combined we're like doing full-time, and then that way the rest of the time is with Bowie and also having like some time off to just do fun stuff. Do you find it overwhelming running all business elements? How do you manage it all? 100%, it is so overwhelming, and that is why I have hired some team members this year, which has been such a refreshing change for me, because I have hired a wonderful helper for my ELSA'S Wholesome Life side of business, Amanda. So she is basically like organizing my schedule for the week and basically just keeping me atop of all of my campaigns and different projects that I have running. We also have Amy, who works for the Wholesome Store, and she's kind of like my PA in that business. So she's keeping me on top of all the ordering and launches. She's running the social media with me, and it's just kind of like I have these two basically assistants for the two businesses, and it basically keeps me accountable, and then they're also helping with those tasks that I don't have time to do every week. So that has been amazing, and I think without them I would not be coping, because it's just so much to bounce from all these different roles of like my ELSA'S Wholesome Life online, like Instagram, YouTube business / my cookbook businesses, and then there's like the Wholesome Store, designing new products, new launches, promoting those, running the social medias for those, and then there's also like being a mum with Bowie, so being home and being present with him, and then just like day-to-day personal life of appointments and just everything else. So it's just like hard to get your brain across all the things that you have to do. And so having these people specifically helping me with those two different businesses has been an absolute game changer. So the next question is, what are your career aspirations? So I feel like I need to have a personal reflection on what my future goals are, because early on in my career my biggest goal was to publish a cookbook. So I'll be publishing cookbook number 3 next year, which just is so insane and blows my mind. So I do need to have some new goals to work towards. I definitely would love to see our brand, the Wholesome Store, continue to grow. Like the last year has been pretty crazy for us and amazing, and I feel like we're just starting to sort of get those pedals in motion and getting a bit smoother and more streamlined with it, because I guess it kind of just like really ramped up last year, and we had a lot of big business changes in that year, and I'd say we're finally running smoothly, but we're not. We need to move to a bigger space. So I feel like once we move to a bigger space, my short-term aspiration is to get into a bigger space, be more organized, have lots of space so that we can continue to grow our brand and have more products on offer and bigger volumes of stock. And then when we move into this space, I have like another little goal that I would love to build a kitchen within our big warehouse, where I can basically build a shoot kitchen where I can produce all of my recipe content for you guys and videos to do with food, so that I can sort of separate that aspect of work from the home. And yeah, I just think that would be really, really cool to have my own space where I can, basically just create all these recipes and videos for you in a work environment. I also often sort of fantasize about another business. I mean, right now I definitely don't have the mental capacity to start another business, but I'm always thinking of other ideas that might pop up and whether I should work on another business, because I find it so satisfying and so exciting, like creating a business and products and ideas. And I don't know, maybe this next business won't be a product in like a physical form, maybe it'll be something completely different, I don't know, but I feel like there will be something else. So the next lot of questions moves into like a social media theme, and the first question is, can you describe being an influencer and what it entails? Whew, guys. Well, a social media influencer would be someone who has a profile on social media and is influencing other people. Being an influencer comes with a lot of responsibility because you are literally influencing people's life decisions. Often we do have to be careful about what we do influence and share. And for me, my personal brand, ELSA'S Wholesome Life, is really about influencing people to live a wholesome, healthy lifestyle. But I also want my page to be really realistic. And I guess it's ELSA'S Wholesome Life, so it's my life. So I'm sharing my life. And with that comes sharing like family life, being a mother, the ups, the downs, influencing, I guess, product purchases. So I do campaigns with brands. So another part of being an influencer is promoting brands. And I think it's really important for those who are social media influencers to really pick and choose the brands that they do work with and the products that they do promote, because you're literally influencing someone to spend their money on a product. And if you don't like that product or believe in it or it doesn't work, and you're literally telling other people who follow you to spend their money that they've worked for on that product, then I think that really needs to be something that that person as an influencer needs to really consider. So yeah, for me, that is picking and choosing brands that I really want to work with and that I'm excited about their product, their message, and them as a brand. But there is such an issue with people promoting brands and products that don't work or that they don't truly believe in, and I think that's like one of the most damaging aspects of being an influencer. But I think more damaging than that is using your influence not for good. So I guess sharing information or opinions on things when you don't have the knowledge or you don't have the qualification to, that's where I think influencing becomes a bit of a slippery slope. I feel like I've gone off track there, so I'm gonna rein it back to the question. So what it entails, it depends on the type of influencer. For me, it entails sharing my day-to-day. My focus is food and nutrition, so I also share what I'm eating, what I'm cooking. I share recipes, I share videos and vlogs on my YouTube. So it's kind of like a personal diary of documenting my life, but also I make an effort to give you guys resources or give you things that are gonna make your life better and easier. So that's free recipes or free nutrition information. You can find all that on my blog, on my Instagram stories, and on this YouTube channel. So for me, that's the biggest thing of being a social media influencer for me, is providing value to other people's lives as well as sharing my life. At what point did you start to monetize your social media? So back when I started Instagram, around 2016, maybe 2015, it was a way different landscape to what it is now. It was a very new territory. Now it's more of a business. So now if you started out, you'd start monetizing earlier. So I don't feel like this question really would answer if someone was to start out now and want to know at what point they could monetize their profiles. But for me, I think I had around maybe 50,000. The first year was mainly just gifting, so getting some free stuff, some free food, some businesses giving me some free product, and that was all really exciting and fun for me. And then I think around probably after about a year, it started to become a business for me. So businesses were offering to pay me to create recipes with their products or to promote their brands. That's kind of when it happened. So it was still when I was in university, I was making probably a very part-time wage from it. And yeah, that was 5 or 6 years ago now. Next question, can you tell us about the reality of social media? What are the hard days like and do you lose motivation? So firstly, can you tell us about the reality of social media? Well, I feel like one of the most important realities is that for the social media consumers who are following me, they probably just see my highlights of my day. So they might see me, I try to be realistic as I can without oversharing and constantly being on my phone sharing stuff. But I feel like I try to share lots of vlogs and days in the lives to show a bit more of what my days look like. Behind the scenes of a, say, branded campaign, there has been a lot of back and forth emails between myself, my agent, and the brand. Then there might be, a campaign and you've given a brief, and there may be some hard times or days when you've put a lot of effort into this campaign or filmed this video for this brand, and then they might come back and not want to approve it and you've got to go make changes or refilm. So that's some of the stuff that you obviously wouldn't see, because you're not going to see a branded video that didn't get approved and they want you to go back and redo. You're going to see the final product. It's a business, so there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see. A lot of the negotiations, or I guess some of the things that never come into fruition. Don't know what the word is I'm trying to say. It's kind of a job that you don't walk away from, and I reckon that's probably the hardest part about it. So for most people, they probably go to a 9-to-5 job. When they walk away, not everyone, I'm not saying this is everyone, but for some people they may go to a job, start at 9 a.m, finish at 5 p.m. From 5 p.m, walk out the door, don't have to think about work until they're walking in again for their next shift. But for someone who is a social media influencer, doesn't really start and stop, and you never really walk away from it. So sometimes I find it's hard to shut off and I guess just stop the brain from thinking, planning, or doing. So I just feel like some days I have a day where, actually I feel like it's every day at the moment, but I feel like often my brain is just got so many different things going on and it doesn't really get much time to switch off, that might be sitting there cooking or something, and then I'm like, oh that's right, I had that email I need to do, jump do that, and then I'm like, oh that's right, I've got to message that supplier back, oh that's right, oh I quickly should message this person. So I just feel like, yeah, you don't really get to switch off. So sometimes it's at 10 p.m. you realize that thing you needed to do and you go do it. And I'm not saying this doesn't happen in every job, because I'm sure there's other people in their careers who have a job where they go home and their work comes home with them and they're not switching off from that. So please don't take it in that way. But I just mean some days you're filming for the whole, or some weeks you're filming for the whole week. So you're not really switching off, or you're filming stories at dinner time, breakfast time, lunchtime. So it's just you're constantly documenting and working. Do you lose motivation? Of course. I have weeks where, I don't have a boss who's watching me and telling me what to do. So there's some days, don't get me wrong, where I'm I would rather just chill out on the couch and watch a movie. Not that that's that possible with a baby, but there's days when I'm home with him and it's a beautiful day and I'm oh, I've got this big to-do list of things that I could do, or we could just go down to the beach, or we could go out for lunch. So yes, in summary, I definitely do lose motivation, and there's days where I'm just I just don't feel like working today, and I'm just gonna have the afternoon off or have the morning off, and it's great that I can do that. But then it kind of backfires on me, because then the next week or the next day or whatever, I might feel a bit stressed, because I said before that I had Amanda working for ELSA'S Wholesome Life and Amy working for the Wholesome Store. So I might get in on Monday and I'll be hey, how did you go this week? Did you get this done? And sometimes I feel I'm no, I didn't really get much done, and I feel really guilty, even though it's it's my business, so I shouldn't feel guilty. But yeah, that's just one of those things where you lose motivation, and yeah, I just need to sometimes pump myself up. Today I was having one of those days. I was yeah, let's go to the beach. Went to the beach and it was 10 a.m. when we got home, and I was thinking, oh, I don't know if I feel filming this video today. There's a demolition going on next door. It's really noisy, so it's not going to be good for the audio, and it's such a nice day outside, and I could really just listen to a podcast and sit on the couch when Bowie has his nap. And then I just sometimes have to snap myself out of it and be if you just go and get it done, you'll feel really good. So I came upstairs, did my makeup, and was okay, I'm just gonna film that intro for the video I need to do this week, and then that's enough. But then I did that and I was okay, no, I'm on a roll now. I feel good. I feel motivated. I'm going to do the next part. I'm going to do that voiceover I had to do. Then I do that and then I'm actually, I'm going to do the Q&A now. So sometimes for me, it's just doing something, just giving myself a small goal, like just go and do one of those things on your list. And then once I do that, I'm motivated again, and then I'm back in a little routine. So the next lot of questions are to do with my business, the Wholesome Store, which like is this brand. If you didn't know, I feel like it's this top. I feel like it's just like my life. Like I got in the car yesterday coming home from work, and I'd been at work, and I just like, it's like I do my shopping there, because every brand that we stock is like, I think of products that I want and I'm like, oh, I love that brand, I love that product. Let's reach out and see if we can stock them. So I feel like it's kind of like a reflection of everything that I want to use for myself or wear, or products that I want to buy. And then I'm like, let's support them and stock them, because if I love this product, then I'm going to want to sell it and promote it and help this business. So I feel like I get to work and I'm like, oh yes, I need a top up of that. Oh yep, I broke my last smoothie tumbler, I need a new one. And I just feel like I'm like shopping. Anyway, these questions are about the Wholesome Store, so let's get started into them. So the first question is, how did the Wholesome Store start? So much like Elsa's Wholesome Life, it was started without a huge like plan. We didn't, Alex and I started together, so we didn't plan or started out to be like, we're gonna build this like online business and it's gonna take off and go crazy. We were literally just like, we're living in Bali and we're like, let's start like a clothing label. Like we can make some cute teas with like some bananas and avocados on it. Like we were living in Bali and we made some friends who own a clothing factory in Bali, and we're like, yeah, we could like make some teas. We could like ship them back to Australia. Actually, literally at first we used to bring them back in our suitcase when we come home. And we could sell them online, and we decided to call it the Wholesome Store because it was like branding off my brand, Elsa's Wholesome Life. And it was kind of like for us a fun thing that we could do together, because obviously I started my social media business, Elsa's Wholesome Life, by myself while I was in uni, and it was kind of just like a little hobby. But Alex and I were working together and we're like, let's do something together and we can like, you know, build this together. He has a bit of retail experience, I have a bit of social media experience. Together we could try and make something, have a bit of fun with it, nothing too serious. And so that was in December of 2017. So we're coming up to our 4th year in December this year, which is pretty crazy. But for the first 1 to 2 years, it was just like a little hobby side thing. We had a few teas, we got some straws, started to get some spoons. It was really just like small scale, bit of fun. We kept all our stock at Alex's mum's house in like one of her spare rooms, and she packed and shipped all of our orders. And we also put obviously my cookbooks on the store as well. So it was kind of just like a fun little hobby. And then basically 2019 we moved back to Australia. We bought this place here on the Gold Coast and we started to expand some of our products on the Wholesome Store. And then 2020 happened, and that's when things really 500% to 1000% increased. Like it just took over our kind of like our workload. It just got really, really big pretty quickly, which I think was partly because we started putting more time and effort into it because we were home and not traveling. So we had more time to put into it and focus on it because it was more, I guess, in our face and it was a good part of our income. And then, yeah, basically 2020, COVID happened, online shopping went crazy, and that's when we moved into our warehouse here on the Gold Coast out of Alex's mum's house. She moved up here to help us run it, and yeah, that's kind of like how things have grown. Next question is, do you design the clothing for the Wholesome Store? Yep, so far to date, everything that is the Wholesome Store in our like clothing range has been designed by myself with like the assistance of our producers. But basically, yep, that's so far. But excitingly, for our upcoming collections, which I'm really, really excited about, I have started working part-time with a designer to help me basically like bring my ideas to life in like our clothing sector, because that area of our business has really taken off in the last 12 months as well. So I have hired someone to help me. Basically, I spew my brain out to her in like mood boards and just little like messages and comments and stuff. And then she puts it onto paper, draws it up and brings it to life. None of that has launched yet, and we're just in the early phase of sampling. So that's really exciting, and I can't wait for you guys to see this collection because it's going to be really, really cool. And yeah, I'm really excited for it, and that's all I'll say for now. The next question is, how big is the Wholesome Store team? Okay, I'm going to run through briefly the different roles and positions in our team. So I call myself like the creative director for the Wholesome Store because I'm basically overseeing all the product development and planning and designing all the new products, as well as helping with social media and helping to promote, shooting collections and editing, doing some website stuff. So I'm doing a lot of those things, but also handing over a few of those roles at the same time. Alex is kind of like the boss. I don't really know how to explain what he does, but he's basically like warehouse, back of house kind of stuff. He does some customer service, some of the returns, moves stuff at the warehouse. He takes all our stuff to the tip because there's a lot of cardboard. Does some of the ordering for more like the packaging side of stuff, and he does all the managing of our staff, so does all of the pays, deals with all the tax side of stuff, and our bookkeeper. He also manages staff hours and yeah, kind of just like oversees a bit of everything. Kaz, Alex's mum, is our warehouse director / manager. And she basically packs all of your orders. She facilitates the returns and exchanges and orders packaging, and is kind of just like our person in-house every day at the warehouse. And she's also a absolute legend. Amy is our wholesale manager / my assistant in the Wholesome Store side of business. She helps me with the web design, product launches, and she also helps me run the social media. So she's kind of just like assisting me with those roles at the moment, and organizing all the ordering of products and just keeping track on where all our orders are. And also anyone who wholesales our products onto their sites, she deals with all of that. We also have Amanda, who is the assistant to ELSA'S Wholesome Life, but she comes in Mondays at the warehouse and works with me so I can balance between the two businesses and jump across what I need to do on both. Outside of the Wholesome Store, I also have an agent, Jacob, who I've worked with for probably like 4 or 5 years, who deals with all of my brand partners, contracts, etc. He's amazing, and he's actually over in Canada. We've never physically met, but we chat all day on WhatsApp, and he, again, a legend. I have Mims, who works remotely down in Victoria, and she does all our web stuff, so updating our banners and website. She does all our EDMs, so our email marketing, and she also helps me with, actually doesn't help me, she does it all. She does all our paid advertising on Facebook ads, Instagram, etc. Amy is our customer service angel, and she again works remotely. She's local on the Gold Coast. She's also my Pilates instructor, but she does our customer service emails and customer service DMs. And she's amazing. She's so much more patient than I could ever be, so I'm very thankful for her. And as I mentioned before, I've got a designer working part-time with me. Her name's Ali, and she's helping me design some clothing. And then outside of that, there's been lots of different people who I've worked with to help with like designing packaging or designing logos, web stuff, designing products, and all sorts of other little things here and there, but I tend to outsource those things to individual creatives in the industry, as well as all our suppliers as well. Do you plan to expand the Wholesome Store into a physical store on the Gold Coast? I would love to, and I think that's definitely something that, as I spoke about before in like my career aspirations, I think that's definitely an aspiration for us one day, to have a physical store, whether that's an attachment to our warehouse or like an extension of it, or whether it's a completely different thing. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's definitely something that is in the backs of our minds, but it's new territory for us because we're an online business. So it's a little bit of a scary one, but like, just like some of the fit outs I see of shops, I'm like, oh, it'd be so fun, like such a fun, cool project to design like a store fit out and to have a physical space that you guys can come and shop our products. And what's next for the Wholesome Store? So, exciting news, we found a warehouse, we bought a warehouse. The catch is it's not built yet. So we just basically secured a really big space, and it'll be ready sometime next year. And I mean, I can't see it because it's not built yet, but I think it's going to be really beautiful, and I'm really excited for it. I've just got to be patient, and we've got to work with the space we have. But that's probably like the most exciting next thing for us, apart from that clothing collection that I spoke about. And we also have lots of other little products which I'm not going to give anything away, but we basically have some new exciting things coming out that you guys are going to love, because they are, how do I say this, new renditions of our best sellers. So yeah, very exciting stuff. So that's all the Wholesome Store questions. Moving on, the next couple of questions are about my cookbooks. So how did you land your first book deal? This is like a bit of a funny story. So when I was at uni, I had published my first ever ebook titled The Wholesome Life, and that was just a self-created, self-online published, I guess you'd call it. I basically just made like a PDF ebook and sold it on my blog. Around that time, I had aspired to create a cookbook in my like future career, and I decided just to like have a crack at emailing this ebook to a bunch of different publishers and seeing if any of them would look at my work and publish me. I didn't really know how it worked, but they all had sort of different ways that you could submit your work to be considered for publishing. So my publishers who I have published with, it was like on their website to submit, you had to wait till like the first Monday of every month, and within certain hours you could electronically submit your work. So I had like marked in my diary that Monday, and it was like a week away or something. I was away on a campaign with one of the tourism boards in Australia and got an email from the head of a publisher who had come across my blog, loved what she could see, loved that I also was studying to become a dietitian, and was like, hey, we'd love to meet with you and chat about publishing a book with you. It was honestly probably one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting email I'd ever opened in my career. And it was the publishing house who I was waiting to submit my work to. They hadn't even seen it yet. And it was just like one of those crazy moments of where you, I guess like, I'm not like one of those manifestation people, but maybe that is manifestation. I don't know. I'd been dreaming about it, thinking about it, planning for it, and it happened on its own. So what's the process of developing and publishing a book? So if you watched my last video, actually it was my last video, I kind of vlogged a few days of working on my new book. But in terms of like the process of developing and publishing, every, I guess, book or company may be different. But for me, the last 3 books has been, every time it's been them coming to me, and obviously the first time was like, we want to publish a book with you. The next time was like, hey, first book was amazing. It's, you know, flying off the shelves. We'd love to do a second one with you if you'd love to. And I was like, hell yeah. So the second book, they basically came back and said, let's publish again. They gave me a theme. They said, you know, you're traveling. I feel like it would only make sense if you made a travel inspired cookbook, which is The Global Vegan, my second cookbook. Then this book has been like, you know, hey, first book went amazing. Second book is actually selling even more amazing. How do you feel about a third? And I was like, oh my God, I would love to, except I have a baby in the mix, so we're going to have to like really put the brakes on and slow down this process for this book. So that brings me to where I am today. They basically go, hey, what do you think of these themes? And I come and go, hey, what do you think of these themes? We have like lots of back and forth emails to discuss ideas. The next step for publishing it is me basically compiling a draft list of the recipes that I want to put in the book, just so they can have a read over and see what they think. And then I get their feedback of what they think of my first draft of the recipes. We set some timelines of like when to get the work complete, when we're going to publish it, because obviously they're a big publishing house, so they have all their work scheduled. They know which months things should be released to sell well, how long they're going to need from getting all of the recipes and photos to actually publishing. They know how long that's all going to take, and obviously things are a little bit different with COVID. It's a bit slower. So I kind of leave all that to them, and then they come to me with a date. And like for this book particularly, I had a date, and it got to a couple of months of working on it, and I honestly just went to them and went, hey, I'm going to need, you know, a few more months on this. They're so lovely and so flexible with me that, you know, we worked around it, and we've got a new deadline for me, which works so much better with having these businesses and Bowie. So the next stage is basically me working on the work, and that is writing the recipe, like testing the recipes, writing the recipes, and shooting the recipes. Of course, there's also all the contract stuff, which I leave in the hands of both my agent and a lawyer to look over both those things, and, you know, bit of back and forth negotiating with that because that's the business side of it. And then, yeah, contracts signed, I work on the work, and we also have an editor who'll work with me. So once I've written the recipes, the intros, the intro to the book, I send all that content off, and they'll basically compile like a manuscript, and then an editor will go through, and basically it's like back and forth, like revisions. So like revision A, B, C, etc. of us just going back and just making the whole book really cohesive, all the recipes written in the same style, all the ingredients just in the same style. Any things that don't need make much sense or need like refining or measuring, all that gets done by them. That's why like working with these publishers has been amazing, because it's really helped my style of writing recipes and writing like instructions really cohesive and just like a lot easier for people. Then I guess the next steps is we book in a cover shoot. I leave it with them to sort of come up with ideas for the cover, but I also have input in that. And then we work together to book like photographer, makeup, location, ideas, concepts. And then I guess in the final parts was also a graphic designer who will design all like the typography in the books and all the art. If you look at my books, there's always like these beautiful drawn artworks throughout it, like little fruits and just like little like art throughout the pages. It's kind of hard to explain without having the book. And there's also like just fonts and colors. So right now we're in the stage of working on finalizing the recipes and shooting the recipes. That's going to go on for a couple more months. And then I'll finalize all that, send it all off, put it all together. There'll be lots of editing going on back and forth. We've got the cover shoot booked in the meantime. And then I think there's a little bit of a break before publishing, because obviously it has to be sent off to get printed and mass produced. And then so much goes on behind their scenes to do with like launching and marketing. So around about the time of my book launch, I will work with a publicist. And I never really understood what like PR was, but basically my publicist will be working behind the scenes to basically secure interviews and features for my book in as many places as they can. So with my second book, I did some like talk at some events. I did some cooking demonstrations. I went on morning television, lots of radio interviews, podcast interviews, magazine features, newspaper articles. Like, it's honestly amazing what publicists can do, and obviously so good and strong for book sales as well. So we usually have like a bit of a blackout week or fortnight just before book launch or around book launch, where she'll just like line up all these things that I need to do, which is really like, it's full on, but it's really, really cool. And after that, it's sort of just like, okay, we're done. I'll usually have a launch party, and then there's like launch dates where it's out on the shelves. And yeah, that's kind of like the process of it from start to finish, really. Like, I feel like that was pretty detailed, but if you have any specific questions, don't hesitate to ask them below and I'll get back to you. And then the final bunch of questions is to do with money, which I feel like is something I'll try to answer as much as I can, but it's a bit of a subject of, I don't know, I feel like people are really private with this sort of stuff. Sometimes I'm like, oh, why is that sort of stuff private? But it's just the way it is. Anyway, I'll try to be as like open and honest if I can, without obviously like giving away super personal details. So the first question on money is how to start an Instagram and YouTube and make a profit from it. Firstly, I'd say if you're like starting those with the intention solely just to make a profit, then maybe you're doing it for the wrong reasons, because it does take a lot of hard work and determination, and it's not 100% going to happen for you, because I feel like the market is very saturated these days. But if you are organically being authentic to yourself, sharing your true self, or you have some kind of knowledge or something to give to other people, then there's definitely a really good chance for you to make a good income from it. But obviously I feel like how to start would be like definitely staying true to yourself, and I think it's honestly adding value to people's lives. So giving people something that is going, I don't know, I guess like being a resource for people is the best thing I could say for starting and building a community, and not just having it for the focus to directly make income. how do you make your main income? These days, our main income comes from the Wholesome Store. It's probably the biggest part of our business, which has been like a big probably shift in the last 12 to 24 months, which is really cool, and which is why we're like so, I guess, motivated and pumped to put so much like time and energy into this business, because we have been putting so much time into it for 4 years now, and it's just really nice that now we're starting to see that it is like, you know, become a really good business for us. How do you know how much to charge for Instagram and YouTube sponsorships? I don't know. I mean, there is websites and blogs with all this kind of information for you with like rough guides. My agent does all that for me, and so how my working relationship with him works is that I'm not exclusive to him or anything. So he basically, some agencies I know will want to see a cut of everything that you do and make. Like I know some make people sign contracts that literally say like if you start your own business, they need to have a percentage of that, which just is so crazy. Anyway, I have like a non-exclusive relationship with my agent where basically any emails that come into my inbox, if I'm like, yeah, that's a cool brand or that campaign sounds great, I flick them on to him, and then he deals with the negotiations, and then he gets a percentage of the money. So obviously he's got my best interests at heart, and yeah, that's kind of like how that works. So he does all the numbers, and there's so many, like, this is why I'm so thankful for him, because there's so many like parts and like aspects to campaigns that I would have no idea about, like using someone's image and using their name, exclusivity in the category, or rights to reuse your content, or rights to like advertise your content. Like there's just so many little nitty-gritty things in advertising and paid advertising that like, look, it's not my realm, it's not my specialty. I'd rather give him a percentage of my income for those campaigns for him to properly value me and my work. And yeah, that's all I can say on that, because I don't know. But there is websites if you want to self-manage yourself, where you can find out for your following and engagement or whatever, you can find out what you should be around about charging. How much money have you made in the past 12 months? So that question popped up lots, and I don't know if anyone expected me to answer that, because that is so personal and something that like I only would share with my accountant and maybe bookkeeper. So I guess I will answer in a different way of how like I pay myself personally, because we are set up as a company. Alex and I receive a wage / salary from our company. So that's kind of like how we, I guess, manage our finances. Everything comes into our company, and then we pay ourselves a salary. And obviously when you are the owner of your business, you can pick how much of a salary you want to pay yourselves. So obviously when you're like wanting to buy a house or something, you'd increase your salary so that you have more borrowing capacity and can buy a house in this crazy market. But that's how we pay ourselves. But in terms of like how much I made last year, that is very secret business. Not really. I don't know why it's secret business, but I would just feel like it's very inappropriate to say that. I could tell you guys how much I've made from YouTube. I don't feel like that's secretive. So on my YouTube dashboard, it will tell me like your estimated revenue for the month. So the last 30 days, it says it's in US dollars, $1,400 US last month. So that's kind of like, I guess, one snippet of my business. And that's like me posting 4 videos a month and average views of probably 50,000. And yeah, I just think that's like pretty cool that you can be putting out regular content and see some income on the side from it. So like if I had been doing this when I was at university, for me that could have been like enough not to have one of those part-time jobs that I had, just by putting out content each week, which is pretty cool. Anyway, I'm going to leave this Q&A here. That's all the questions that I had to answer for you guys, and I hope that it's been kind of insightful into work, business, all those kinds of things. If you have any other questions, feel free to answer them down below and I'll get back to you. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in next week's video.